GT4 European Series is ready to go racing here at Spa-Francorchamps. Our first of two races, our third weekend of the season, and it is going to be all action. A race that's starting a little bit earlier than was initially on the timetable, so whether we get quite so much dart running remains to be seen. However, it's about the only time of not just the day, but the weekend where we've got a bit of cloud cover and temperatures have finally dropped. It's still 41.3 degrees out on the track and 73% humidity, which is pretty scary. But we're in for a good race. A 1 hour GT4 race, mandatory pit stops, of course, and they're the reigning champion, Robert Constantly, trying to keep cool on the grid. David Addison and Joe Osborne, as ever, are trackside. Joe, going to be really busy around this 7-kilometre circuit with a big grid.
Yeah, with 44 cars. We've seen lots of chaos, haven't we, in GT4 over the years. I have to say, last year and the start of this year, they've really calmed it down, and the quality of racing has been elite. And it is elite with a double pole position. That means the team has taken 6 straight pole positions here at Spa, one every year since 2024.
And we've also had a BOP adjustment before this race, so whether or not the McLarens have quite the same vitesse, we'll have to wait and see. Now, as the cars make their way to the grid, time to introduce another voice to you. We're delighted to be joined this weekend at the Crown Strike 24 Hours of Spa by Jonathan Grace, whose voice accompanies GT World Challenge America. First of all, welcome to Europe. Welcome to a really competitive championship. GT4 European Series is quite something.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute treat to be here. I've been such a fan of the GT4 format, having witnessed it and announced it a little bit stateside, but in the European Series is a whole different ballgame.
Well, we're delighted to have you, Jonathan. Before we get much further, let's get to the grid. Stefano D'Aste is one of the men to watch.
Stefano D'Aste, great qualification from you today for this first race. Good opportunity for you guys to recover from quite a hard start of the season.
Yeah, we did a very great job during qualifying and even during the weekend. I couldn't believe to achieve to the 5th position because our condition of POP are not the best, but we did it, and I'm really very happy even about Max Schiavone that did the 21 overall, and it is the first time for him here in Spa, and Spa is a very difficult. It is the university of tracks. So yes, I'm happy about the job that we are doing.
Have a good race.
Stefano D'Aste, the man that prepares these Lotuses, and his car is going to start 5th on the grid. Bernard Langer, our reporter, down on the grid. Now, what about Mackenzie Cresswell? He's sharing with Charlie Hart, and it's the car on pole position. They've got a pole position time each, and this one is down to Charlie Hart. But let's hear from Mackenzie Cresswell in the company of Bryn Lucas.
Well, rain has been, it's gone, it's so muggy out here, and you put the car on pole earlier on. It's going to be slightly different conditions out there, looking all the way up the hill there, Radion just there. It's going to be a difficult ask and a difficult season so far.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky race for sure. As you said, there was a little bit of rain recently, and with the temp so high, it's made the humidity really high. So same for everybody, but it's something we've not faced yet, so it'll be a bit of a challenge, and yeah, we definitely need to get a good result. It's not been the easiest start of the year, so looking to get a really strong result in race 1 and then another one tomorrow.
Sean, good luck.
Thank you. Mackenzie Cresswell then, who will do the second stint in that car, and he has a pole position for tomorrow's race. You can see it's a little bit more cloudy than it was earlier on. The GT4 European Series, as ever, with its Silver Pro-Am and Am competition, so you've got 3 races within one to look forward to here, and it is going to be an all McLaren front row. Charlie Hart starting from pole position, Yanni Stevenhuyden's alongside him. Lots and lots of fans have been to the circuit throughout the weekend thus far, and they are staying put, ready for this final race of the day. Second row of the grid, another McLaren, Charlie Robertson, and then the first of the Audis, Greg Gilbert, starting for Team Speedcar. And as we get closer to the start of the race, I mentioned Charlie Robertson is going to be 3rd on the grid. His co-driver is Ravi Ramid. Let's hear from him, because we can get back to the grid. Bryn Lucas has found Ravi up from British GT4 last year.
Well, Ravi, we're used to seeing you from British GT point of view this year in the GT4s in Europe. It's a slightly different kettle of fish, and looking around here at Spa, what an atmosphere and what a place to race.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, it's great to be part of such a big sporting event, you know, and even when you drive around your in-laps, just the people sat in the grandstands and up on their feet and, you know, wandering around the circuit, it's really, really good.
Your season hasn't really gone as you'd like it so far. It's not been terrible, but it's not been great. It's fair to middling. But what can you do from here? You're on the second row, which is a good start.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a good place. The car's okay. We've had an overnight BOP change. So that's going to make it interesting. They put some more weight in the car. But we're in a great place. Hopefully the carnage is behind us and we can just get gone. And then let's see what happens when he gives me the car.
Let's see. Good luck.
Thanks very much.
Oh yeah, I like the optimism. Carnage behind us. Hey, it won't be carnage. They'll all be impeccable through the first few corners. It was a late decision, wasn't it, to go from BMW to McLaren, to go from one team to another, but it's paid off, and Charlie Robertson proving now that he's good in other things, not just Genettas. He got a bit typecast for a while in those, Joe.
Yeah, last year, obviously, British GT, they were so strong, weren't they? In the BMW, they raced against the McLaren, which they ultimately lost the championship to, and I wonder if that was the reason they decided when they had to jump from the BMW ship, which one should they sail, and Robertson and Ravi there have done a mega job getting up to speed, and Elite obviously are one of the top teams, now up to 3 cars in their stable.
The fans in the grandstand have found themselves on the big screen, so time for a wave, and they are set for what should be a really lively hour of GT4 racing, a category that's got more and more popular around the globe. The Victor Bouvin Joachim Walder BMW you see, and also 110 Mercedes. This is the car of Julien Apotelos and Joel Mesh. The sister car has had 3 wins out of 4 races in silver, but the Mercedes potentially around here could well be a car to beat. So the team's now making their way off the circuit, and very shortly we will get ready for the cars to have that formation lap, the rolling start, and then we're going to be in business. And GT4, Jonathan, a category that's sort of caught alight these days around the globe. It's popular everywhere.
It has, and it was actually kind of a topic of conversation this morning. SRO having its annual press conference, announcing calendars and things like that, and Stefan Rattel, the SR in SRO, spent a good amount of time kind of reminiscing about the origins and the history of the GT formats that he's brought so ubiquitously to the globe. And he talked about GT4 as something that didn't kick off right away, but once more manufacturers started producing cars, it has exploded. You look at the quality of the racing, the quality of the drivers, what it does not only as a challenge for gentlemen drivers, but as a wonderful launching pad for up-and-coming drivers who have aspirations of going GT3 racing later in their careers. It serves a lot of purposes, and it serves them well. I think it hits a price point. The cars are still fast. They're challenging to drive. At least I would imagine they are. I'm a commentator and certainly not a racing driver. I'll defer to you two in that category. But it's been really, really nice to see the growth of GT4, and I think a healthy 44 car grid is a testament to that.
Yeah, it's 20 years next year since GT4 was launched. I remember doing the circuit commentary for the first race at Silverstone, and it was a modest grid, and we came away thinking, okay, yes. And it did take a long time, Joe, to really ignite. But as Jonathan says, once initially Porsche, I think, the first manufacturer to really commit, others followed, realising that there was a market.
Yeah, I was one of the first customers, European GT4 2009, racing a Jetta G50 back then, won the championship, obviously. No, it was a tough year. We were racing against a lot of fast cars back then, but yeah, it's great to see where it is, and it's a 44 car field, really shows you the strength it's got.
Does indeed. So we're set for a really lively race here. Mandatory pit stops. The window is 25 to 35 minutes. Don't think the drivers don't know the lap. They don't need a map on the steering wheel because they get lost. But if there's a report of a yellow flag at turn 6, they can quickly look at the map on the dash, and they know exactly where that is going to be. Looking down to Pro-Am. Good battle is anticipated there, and we're not far away then from getting that 1 minute board. Engines will fire, the grid will clear to mirror what we're going to have in the GT3 race, the 24 hours tomorrow. It is the start at the endurance pits that is going to be used. So there's the 1 minute board, engine on. The grid marshals in the blue and white overalls go one side. The teams now have to find a gap in the barrier and vault that and get off the track, ready to do their work in the pit lane. There's not really a great deal, Joe, they can do from here on in, really. It's just a case of time the pit stop if all is running to plan.
Yep, exactly. That 10-minute window when to do your pit stop. We see it very effectively used, don't we? If you're stuck behind a slower car, you can do the opposite to them, so either over or undercut them, which can be a nice difference. But that minimum pit stop time, the GT4 cars are very professional at it, rarely going under. But as soon as you go over, that time loss is never going to be found again, and that's why the teams want to cut it so fine on the timing.
11 different manufacturers represented on that grid. That goes back to the strength of the category you were just mentioning.
Yes, it is, and one that I've actually been personally just excited about is that Lotus Emira GT4. It's not a car we get really in the States, so it's been fun coming over here to Spa from my home in California and touring the United States with SRO America and their camp, but it's been a treat. Personally, I'm a fan of the Lotus brand, and it's neat to see the Emira GT4 in race trim, and it's been a pretty handy couple of races as well. Success in Monza for that Lotus PB team as well.
What a assume another one you've potentially not seen is the Alpine, which joins us for the first time since Jeddah in 24. It's the first time we've seen it in its Evo update as well. So, yeah, 11 manufacturers, one better than GT3. So your eyes are going to have a huge feast, Jonathan.
Oh, they are. And how I wish we had that little Alpine, that A110, now in the Plus variant, as you said, here on the grid. I wish we got those in the States.
Let's have a look at the grid then. It's Charlie Hart who starts on pole position. With him at the front is going to be Yanni Stevenheidens ahead of Charlie Robertson and Greg Gilbert, with Stefano D'Aste starting 5th and the reigning champion Benjamin Lariche going from 6th, ahead of Victor Bouvin with the best of the BMWs, and then Romeo Lurs, who's kind of had a problem, stopped in qualifying, but it is on the grid ahead of Vinny Beltramelli, and then Sam Paley with the first of the Mustangs. Next comes the ever-rapid Hendrik Still, ahead of Tomasz Gredesh. Behind him, you've got Nathan van Springel and Bati Ega Yildirim in the Borusan BMW. Thomas Rackel is in the next of the Borusan BMs from Luc Ibaniev. Then it's Mies Houben and Enrico Federer, a long way back on the grid. A triple winner in number 1-1-1. American driver Hudson Schwartz comes next, ahead of Massimiliano Schiavone. Darren Turner, the Le Mans class winner, is running up alongside Henry Jocelyn, former single-seater racer, ahead of Nico Ferreira, who's been a class winner already this year. And Bas Visser in the Porsche ahead of Linus Hana and Calvin de Groot. Then you've got David Kuhlmann and Gustavo Xavier from Edwin Hellsten and Robert Cronin. Clement Seiler had a big crash at Monza, but he's back here and hoping to make progress, lining up alongside Julian Apotelos. Davide Meloni starts 53 with Dan Paolo in his 100th GT4 race alongside Tuda Tudoraci. Then Ruben Del Sart lines up alongside the Ginetta of Hugo Mojica. On the next row of the grid, Elon Gabay in the Porsche he shares with the wheelchair user Tim Horrell. The Brunhagen family, who are the championship leaders in AM, are next. Christopher Starts ahead of Daniel Drexel, who had a class winner, Paul Ricard, and Lazar Latigo is next alongside him. On row 21, there's Maximus Meyer and Diesel Thomas ahead of Daniel Blickler, who's got a 10-place grid drop after causing an accident at Monza. Then you've got Daniel Varvarud with the grid possibly completed by Julien Ripper. I say possibly because he did not appear in either of the qualifying sessions, and there he is. So the car is kind of in the race, but not terribly, because unless it fires up, then that's not going to go very much further. The marshals want that off the track and in the pit lane, and then they can worry about whether it's going to join in at all. But the signs here, Joe, aren't looking good.
No, we were seeing earlier, weren't we, after qualifying for Rupert, he had a topsy-turvy Monza last time out, a super qualifying 1, and then couldn't really convert it in 2. And hopefully they can get that car going in pit lane, and it can just join at the tail, and it's got going straight away. So last time we saw it was going at walking speed, downhill albeit, and now it's A-OK. He will have to start from last place as he went all the way to the back. He is unable to regain his position, which was already last place.
Indeed, so at least the car is going. And as you say, good effort this from Elite at the front of the grid. Wipers on, look, as the track's been declared wet. Elite coming in, having won both races from pole in 24, Josh Rattigan and Tom Leben. Second and 2 poles, Rattigan and Mackenzie Cresswell last year, as now the cars try to get themselves in that 2x2 formation. Elite's locking out the top 3 on this 44-car grid, with Charlie Hart giving Elite its first pole of the season, his first GT4 pole as well, 3/10 quicker than Belgian teammate Yanni Stevenheidens, and with Mackenzie Cresswell on pole for the second race. That's his 6th pole, so all things good for Eddie Ives' Elite team that has a pretty busy operation, running single-seaters in the UK, running Ginettas in the UK, and running these McLarens that have some good days and some not so good, really, depending a little bit on the balance of performance. And as I say, there has been a BOP adjustment going into this race, so we'll see the winners and the losers out of all of that. I suspect you might see things like the Aston and the Mercedes being a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, they'll be hoping so, won't they? They weren't quite on the money in qualifying, and that's the glorious thing about balance of performance, is always ebbing and flowing to keep the gaps as small as possible, and that's why we've got 11 manufacturers all able to win. We've got 22 nationalities of drivers represented as well, so it shows you what a global championship European GT4 really is.
We have the Brunhagens leading in the AM Championship, although they are yet to win. Joachim Walder and Victor Bouvin are the rather dominant, rather runaway championship leaders in Pro-Am, and in silver, again with a 37-point cushion, Cedric Fuchs and Enrico Federer, after taking 3 wins out of the previous 4 races. But that advantage in the championship could well be nibbled away over the next hour of racing here at Spa. It is race 5 of GT4 European Series. There's an hour on the clock, and the cars now get themselves into that 2x2 formation as they snake through the chicane. They're coming up towards the timing line, but we're not at the start of the race. That's going to be done on the old pits, and there's one car there bailing for the pit lane, and so let's see. It'll trip the beam in a moment to tell us who it is that's come into the pits, but it was, I think, relatively near the front. Yeah, Benjamin Lariche, the reigning champion, comes down the pit lane. So Lariche has got a problem, or he reckons it's going to rain and he's going to do something clever on tyres. But I think that's more of a problem because Robert Constany said, what are you doing? He's not even got to his crew. We have got cars with wipers on, but it's definitely nothing to do with rain and tyres. That's a mechanical problem. So the Lariche Constany season, which has been really disappointing, it gets no better.
2 Audis with problems before we even take the start, so hopefully that's coincidental and it's not going to affect us.
Oh no!
The thing that has been affected is the 56 Lotus in the gravel, which looked like Stavolo to me, T17.
Okay, so 56 in the gravel. Are we going to get a delayed start? Race control are going to be looking this at the cars now, making that run down towards the start line. They're going to have to get it out of the way, surely. Either that or we go, and then we have to call the safety car. So Julien Rippert's car may have stranded itself as well. But we are going to go racing then. So the lights go green. We're in business for race 1 of GT4 European Series, and a good start made by Charlie Hart to cover off the lead from Yanni Stevenhuyden's. Charlie Robertson in the white McLaren is third. Stefano D'Aste on his toes up to 4th in the Lotus. They climb the hill for the first time with Lucky Bagnaia running way off the racetrack. And I think also there you had the Cedric Fuchs Enrico Federer car doing exactly the same thing. But it's McLaren 1, 2 and 3 as they make the run up towards the Les Combes sequence for the first time. Stefano D'Aste in the Lotus goes right round the outside of Charlie Hart. Great move as they get to the braking zone. They all funnel their way through, but I'm still intrigued as to know what's going to happen with that car in the gravel. But good start by Charlie Hart.
Really good, and it's a good start from the Lotus as well. So we've got 2 British manufacturers covering the top 4, with Lotus now splitting those 3 elite cars. The BMW looming large behind Victor Bouvin. He's had a strong start as well. Gilbert has lost a place. The Mustang just behind as well has started strong. The Supras were running 3 wide through a rouge, kept it clean, and there's still contact going all the way down this field as we stream down the hill into Pouhon.
Pouhon, one of the most high commitment parts of this racetrack, going wheel to wheel, door to door. It's one of the Caymans and one of the Audis further back. Everyone behaving on corner entry, but fender on fender all the while. The lead 2, the 2 McLarens, Charlie Hart and Stevenhuyden, scampering off as the battle rages on for the overall 3rd position. But really, in the heart of the field, the 61 Mustang has its hand full. Nathan Van Springel, one of the Ford juniors, Ford Racing, using GT4 racing around the globe as there's contact just ahead. Van Springel still trying to make his way through this battle. On the binders, finally turning to the right. This quickly turns into a left. Excuse me, a second right-hander as you hit sector 3 of this racetrack, and maybe a good idea to try to set up a move. You can make a move into Blanchimont, but it's got to be committed, and you don't want to ruin your race early on. But either while, that Lotus on the move early.
We're hearing that it might be an engine failure for the number 1 Audi in the pit lane, a complete loss of power. So Lariche and Constany out of the race. Julien Rippert pulled off on that formation lap as well. We saw 56 Lotus in a gravel bed somewhere, but we had got through the first lap without drama, particularly, and Charlie Hart leads the way as the cars dive under the drone heading into the chicane. There you've got the Borusan BMW trying to gang up on the number 61 Mustang that comes onto the pit straight. 1 or 2 being a bit cavalier there in terms of track limits, but Charlie Hart leads at the end of lap 1 of the hour. Yanni Stevenhuyden's is 2nd, 3rd is Stefano D'Aste, 4th is Charlie Robertson, Victor Bouvin is 5th in the BMW, and 6th is Greg Gilbert in effectively the surviving quick speed car Audi right now. 7th is the Mustang of Sam Paley. Romeo Lurs is 8th for Toyota. Tamas Guedes is 9th in the Toyota, and Henrik Still's Porsche is in 10th, Joe.
Yeah, as we rode on board with Van Springel, it actually looked like he was the man on the move trying to get past the Porsche of Hendrik Still. It's now defence for Van Springel from Betramelli in that Audi. That Audi's so quick at the end of the straight, so we'll keep an eye as they get to the end of the Camel. The Borusan Automotive BMWs always seem to run in formation. They've teamed up well and they're clearing the cars behind them.
But they're also coming under attack. Look from Lucky Bagnaia in the Mercedes there, the green and red car, the grey and red car, I should say, that he shares with Alex Papadopoulos. There's a bit of damage on the back of the number 12 BMW, is there not? So there you've got the car of Thomas Rackel showing the scars of the opening lap. Henry Jocelyn in the white and red Toyota gets up the inside of Ibanez. He gets out his elbows. argues his way through, and as they get to Bruxelles, he's not quite clear. Luc Ibanez, the Spanish driver, is now on the wrong line for Bruxelles. He's been hung out to dry on the outside, but he should get the inside line for turn 9, and he does indeed. So Luc Ibanez goes back through. That's all a bit brutal.
Yes, it is, but I don't know that this battle is quite done yet, because it's a different matter entirely once you hit Sector 3 of this racetrack, and you can see door-to-door still a little bit further back. We are all but strung out here. We talked about how close the racing in GT4 is, and they're putting it on full display in the opening couple of laps.
That orange and black BMW of Linus Harner on the outside line. There's another car running wide. We've got a Porsche in strife here with a puncture. Others are just run way, way wide coming out of Pont, but a punctured Porsche heading for pit lane. We'll come back to that in a moment. There's an awful lot going on, but it is still a McLaren 1, 2 gap. Lotus 3, former Alfa Romeo touring car racer Stefano D'Aste keeping Charlie Robertson at bay. Then it's Boveng and Gilbert. Still got cars with wipers on, although I'm not convinced the rain's really amounting to very much. But I tell you what, it's happening, and the temperature is now almost pleasant.
Yeah, exactly. The car with the puncture was 31, Alain Gabet in the Porsche. Right. We've got a car in the gravel as well, somewhere in Sector 2. I think it's on the exit of Piff Paff. We're staying green for now, and I think it might be the Julien Ripert car that had the problem on the formation lap.
Big dive there from the Mustang, look, coming into the chicane. It's 61, which is Eric Evans, trying to find a way past the Toyota. It didn't quite work. Sorry, that's Van Springen, I should say, in 61. It didn't quite pay off against Tamas Guedes, but it nearly did. And there, as the Porsche is pushed out of the way, that's down at Speaker's Corner. The racetrack is clear. Right, Van Springen with another big dive to the inside. Is he alongside the Toyota? Yes, he is, and he's gone by. Forces the Toyota wide. Guedes goes rally crossing, loses 1, loses 2 places. You're a brave man to try to get in the way of the Ford Mustang.
Guedes did a nice job at keeping at least 2 tires on the racetrack. That could have very easily been a Supra spinning in the gravel, but all the while Van Springen to the fore. But now he's got to play the defense game down the Kemmel Straight, trying to use every ounce of grunt in that front engine V8 GT4 car, but he's got a very rapid Audi behind him. Very rapid as well as the 2 McLarens that continue to lead this field.
Is it my old eyes, or is Stefano D'Aste a bit closer to the leading McLarens? We've also had a change for 4th. Boveng has cleared Charlie Robertson.
Yeah, your eyes are very old, but that was a purple Sector 1 for D'Aste, so he took half a second out of Stephen Hayden's in that second place McLaren, as we're still side by side, and Ibanez gets his revenge on the BMW. And this was the corner 1 lap ago that the Supra was roughing him up. And look at the gap between those 2 Borissan Automotive cars. The latter one, the 11 car of Rickel, is really starting to fall back.
Yeah, so...
Oh, Yildirim, sorry.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? In his first year, about the Yildirim in the blue BMW. He's going to go wide, he's going to go the gravel, he's going to get out the other side, more or less, but he's lost places to the Toyotas. The car in front most definitely is a Toyota now, and he's got an Aston in front of him. That's Darren Turner dive bombing him as well as they get towards Pont. So Batha Yildirim there having a bit of a moment. The good news is the car had gravel mode and he got out the other side. The
problem when you're Darren Turner, you're racing for a team called Full Send Racing. That's how the moves have to be. That was a full send from Darren. Plenty of experience, not getting any younger, but not getting any slower either.
Says Wisdom Pro Osborne. Leading Am, Christopher Brunhagen at the moment. But up front, Charlie Hart still doing a good job. And I think everybody has got a playmate here. There's some great racing going on.
Oh, there certainly is. I think everybody's exploring track limits as well as the battles continue to rage on. Was that just a little bit of contact? Wing mirrors have not quite folded in, but I think there might be a little bit of scuff on some of these vinyl wraps, and it is getting as close as ever, isn't it, between these 2?
Bearing in mind they're back on track early doors tomorrow morning. There's not a huge amount of repair time. Look the other way. There, the BMW Linus Harner goes through. So coming up towards now the end of, gosh, only lap 3, would you believe? And a lot's been happening with about 8 minutes of the race, give or take, completed. Porsches side by side. Nico Ferrand there on the inside line, trying to make his move as they get to the braking zone, but not able quite to clear that very similar car that comes in the colours of the SRS team Sorg Rennsport. Calvin de Groot at the wheel of it, over the timing line. So Hart, Stephen Haydens, D'Aste, Boveng, Robertson, Gilbert, your top 6. Sam Paley is 7th, Romeo Leurs 8th, Hendrik Still is 9th, and Nathan Van Springen up into 10th place now. But Calvin de Groot trying to make a move here against the BMW look as they go down the hill. Linus Harner 22nd place in the BMW, but Ferrand gets past de Groot, curve and all, but de Groot fights back on the inside. He gets all crossed up, he's off the road and back on again. But that was brave stuff, wasn't it, from Nico Ferrand to make that move stick.
Yes, it was, and Harner will be loving this because all of a sudden he was having to play defense, and now it's 3 Caymans who are sparting down the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, Visser there is going to get down the insides, but it's been a bad run. Actually, Visser didn't get him on the brakes. Normally on the inside there into Lacombe, it means it's your corner. But I think finally De Groot was like, I've had enough of going backwards and I need to get back on the front foot. Remember, that car was in the mix with the two in front as we go to the front. And unfortunately, the Lotus so quick in sector 1 and 3, but just loses all of its gains and more in sector 2. And it's actually the BMW in 4th I'm liking the look of Victor Boeving. At the moment, Van Springel still stuck behind still. That's been the battle we've been watching since the opening part of this race.
And this is the view on board with Natal Van Springel. That's Hendrik Still's Porsche Cayman just up ahead.
Yes, it is, and this battle has not gone anywhere. Van Springel has had to take some liberties with track limits in defense, and now all of a sudden he's gone on the offensive. We've seen that Mustang have a little more grunt off of these corners in a straight line. Maybe not more than the Audi, but I think a little bit more than the Porsche Cayman, although that Cayman looks maybe just slightly more sorted mid-corner and on exit. A little wiggle of the steering wheel, Joe, as he was trying to put the power down.
Two ways to make a race car. The American way with a big engine, the European way, nice and nimble. Both doing the same lap times, and that's why we love GT racing. These two really going toe-to-toe, aren't they? There's less than a second between them. Last time by for Charlie Hart was the fastest lap of the race. Still a couple of seconds off the lap record, which was set last year by Gabriele Piana in one of the Borusan automotive cars. The temperature's too high this year, I think, to worry that record that was set last year.
And, of course, you're going to get Piana into a car in the second stint, so expect the order to shuffle a little bit as they come over the stripe once more. Hart to Stephen Hayden's now 11-10th. Stefano D'Aste still there in 3rd place. Then Victor Boeving 4th. D'Aste and Boeving battling for honours in Pro-Am. Charlie Robertson 3rd in class. Hart and Stephen Hayden's top 2 in the race, top 2 in silver. And the best of the AMs a long, long way back, Christopher Brunhagen, who's lost a couple of places, in fact, on that last lap. So they dive down towards Eau Rouge, past the endurance pits, and then they make the climb up the other side through Radiant. Carl go light at the top, and D'Aste then in 3rd, doing his level best to stay in touch with the top 2. But really, Joe, more importantly, hang on to the lead of his class.
Yeah, and that's the important bit. We always get worked up, don't we, about overall numbers, but we have got that class split, 3 classes, and D'Aste leading that Pro-Am one, and we know how quick that 26 car can be. So when he hands it over to teammate Massimo Abati, he will keep up that momentum as well. And same with that car. So our 3 Pro-Am leaders, 2nd, 4th and 5th overall, have all got very fast teammates.
Down through Bruxelles comes number 98, Victor Boeving. BMW chasing after Lotus. 2 completely different ways of addressing the GT4 issue here. One is the small engine turbo sports car. The other is an almost touring car style that towers over the low-line sports cars around it.
No, it certainly is, and as with GT3, the various body shapes and sizes in GT4, because all these cars are built to similar power-to-weight numbers, and they all fit within a box, so to speak, of the regulations. Even if a car's footprint is larger on track, they weigh just about the same, plus or minus, of course, a couple of kilos, depending on the rules. Further back in the order, 4 cars completely strung out, all trying to catch the 2 lead McLarens. Meanwhile, D'Aste has done a nice job of separating himself, but Boeving, I think, is closing just a little bit, but there's still pressure even further behind, with Robertson chasing as well.
Yeah, and he's under pressure, isn't he, Charlie Robertson, in that white McLaren from the largely green Audi. Greg Gilbert, who's been a GT4 champion in his class in the past. He's been a one-make Peugeot champion in the past, and Greg Gilbert was close to Robertson through the twiddly bits, but now it's the power part of the circuit. The gap just stretches a little bit. Are these wipers doing anything, Joe, or have they just been left on from earlier in the race? Because there doesn't seem to be much water in the air.
As a driver excuse, I assume it's actually quite hard to toggle them off. Cars all have a different strategy. I always preferred the cars where it was on the steering wheel and there was a wipe, a fast wipe and off, and it just toggled round. Some manufacturers like to have it on the centre console, so maybe the driver's unable to struggle. But the windscreen wipers do start to warm up, and you can sometimes start to peel off the tear off on those windscreens. At worst case, burn out the motor and sometimes do the fuse. I was just actually looking at the weather radar. There is so much rain in the area. There's lightning 4 kilometres away. We've got a chance here of a very different race if the weather comes this way. We saw heavy rain in warm-up, didn't we? And it didn't really affect it because track temp's so high. But there's definitely something to keep an eye on as more wipers seem to be coming on.
And we'll be back for a weather update with Joe Osborne in another 15 minutes. Meanwhile, we're on lap number 6 here, and it is still Charlie Hart ahead. There's a few more heroics going on. And another one there. Look, big dive from the BMW going down towards La Source. You'd argue now that there are more and more cars with their wipers on, so perhaps there is a little bit more drizzle in the air. Christopher Brunhagen currently leading in AM. This is the car that Christopher and Mikael, his dad, share. Another of the Supras there, side by side. Tudu Tudorace's Audi versus the Mojica brothers Ginetta, and the Audi just starting to edge away in a straight line, but here comes the Ginetta then. The British-built car up alongside the Audi, and the Mojica family. It's Hugo Mojica doing the first stint, braking late. They're under attack from an Aston that's going to jump the pair of them on the inside line there potentially. That was Clement Zeiler being very, very brave indeed, and Clement Zeiler out of nowhere splits them.
This is the battle to stay in the top 30. This is how competitive it is. I just think that we're getting more and more rain. I'm looking out the window here on the pit straight side. It gets down the inside, gets it stopped initially, contact between them. Ginetta's going to do well to stay at the gravel trap, which he just about does. Mojica there got properly hip and shouldered from a very aggressive Zeiler. Every time we've seen that car on this lap, he looks like he wants to get down the inside of someone super aggressive.
And while it might not be flooded on track yet, I can certainly tell you that runoff area looked a little bit shinier than it did a lap ago. Battles rage on, but I fear it's going to get slipperier and slipperier. You can see a little bit of a haze. We're trying to see if there's any droplets or color change on the tarmac out of our window, but if you're going to make a move, you might want to do it sooner rather than later. Let's quickly get to the pit lane. Bryn Lucas can give us another weather update. Bryn, are you getting wet?
Yeah, I thought I'd show you my weather app here, so you get an idea of the rain. As you're saying, big, big red on the screen. But the main thing is the amount of rain that's coming down now. Big, thick blobs of rain, very, very humid, and everyone's running for cover at the moment. So that gives you a sense of the conditions out on track.
Honestly, he's been moaning about being hot all day. Now he's moaning about being wet. Our sympathy apps aren't working, even if your weather app is, Bryn. Stick at it. Leader comes up towards the end of the lap. It's going to be really interesting now, isn't it, to see whether the rain really comes to coincide with the pit window, because the last thing teams want is to have to make an extra pit stop. And if you're going from one weather tyre to another one, it's a much longer pit stop again. It doesn't happen that often in the championship, but it's something else to factor in, as Charlie Hart then leads the way. And now there is evidence. It's wet, and it's on the screen of the Mustang.
Yeah, and the lap times are now dropping away at an alarming rate. 5 seconds a lap slower. Yes, the tyres are going off, but that is way too much. I'd say the crossover time here is around 14 seconds. So until we're 14 seconds a lap slower, we're still on the right tyre. Another easy rule that I was taught by the tyre technicians: until you see spray, you don't need a wet tyre. That's a tyre technician telling you from the comfort of their office, or you're going for a Rouge at 140 miles an hour on the wrong tyre. But that's where we would need to go. But the teams will be hurriedly getting those wet tyres ready.
And the point Jonathan makes about the track surface looking shiny is absolutely well made. Every time you look at it now, it seems to be changing colour, and every lap Charlie Hart is the pioneer. Every corner indeed of every lap he's the pioneer, because there's a different grip level now at this corner Bruxelles, Jonathan, than there was a lap ago, and he's the first one to find it. He is, but he's got his hands full, because not only is he providing effectively reconnaissance for everyone else in the field, but he is also very quickly going to have to be providing some defense, because Stefano De Asti is charging. He has well and truly caught these opening two, who leapt away from the rest of the field, but that Lotus is charging. It likes these conditions. We had a Toyota getting all squirrely down turn 9, and a big lose from a Mercedes in the pack.
Wow.
And how they all managed to miss that is one of the mysteries of the day. Hercule Poirot couldn't solve that mystery. 17 gets away then after that big lose. Thankfully, without too much damage done, but that could have been much more serious. Let's have another look.
Gets hit by the Supra, doesn't he, behind him, turns him around. That Alpine does incredibly well to flirt with the front bumper and stay out the way. I was just going to make a point on those two manufacturers at the front. I've driven both cars. I think the wet is going to suit the Lotus. Why? The McLaren is great, but it's a very stiff carbon fibre chassis, so it doesn't allow the car to roll and pitch. The Lotus has a very high centre of gravity due to the supercharger on top of the engine. That allows the car to pitch and roll more. I think if we go to the wet, that Lotus is going to be a weapon that can race all the way to the front.
Diesel Thomas was our spinner, the Australian, who comes from a good racing lineage. Dad used to race sprint cars on Australian speedway tracks, but Diesel Thomas goes around, drops many a place, rejoins. Right, the rain still isn't coming to much, is it? It's teasing the teams here. Yeah, it certainly is. I will defer to the racing driver in the commentary booth to make the determination on when you switch to slicks, but switching of positions is not an uncommon thing at the bus stop, and 29 ahead of 3. And that Audi, who had been so strong in a straight line, is now struggling just a little bit to put the power down, and will hope to use all of the grunt in that mid-engine platform to try to chase some of the competitors here.
just to tidy up the pit stop, if teams do change tyres, they have to add another 71 seconds onto their pit stop time. So what the teams will be working out is, can we gain that 71 seconds in the remaining, say, half a race? It's a big ask to find that, because they're only going to be probably getting 13 laps or so. So suddenly they need to be really needed, those wet tyres.
And if it is wet, they're going to be slower laps anyway, so fewer of them to be done in the time. And yeah, we're certainly not at that tipping point yet, are we? It might be a little bit sketchy out there, but it's certainly not anything like wet enough for wet. So these nice warm slicks cut through whatever liquid there is on the ground for now. And still, we've got this Elite Motorsport McLaren 1-2. Charlie Hart ahead of Yanni Stevenhaydens as the cars descend upon Les Combes. The Toyota battle there, absolutely together, those cars. They rub their way through. You've got Mate Hauben running in 19th place. Hudson Schwartz on the inside. Behind that, there's the Gustavo Xavier BMW, the blue and white car, alongside the similar car of Linus Hanna. It's like a rolling start again.
Mentioned him at the beginning of the show, but Darren Turner's just ahead of this battle. He was having to play the defense game, as that is a significant amount of smoke out of the front left corner of that BMW. That is certainly not right. Pulls sportingly off the track, does the number 60.
That's Gustavo Xavier, and there's contact there. I reckon that's a tyre that's gone, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah, or maybe even suspension. The steering arm has gone. I have to say, all the cars that have had problems have got out the way so well. That would be the third car that's had an incident on track but has got behind the barrier. So I think we're going to be okay to stay yellow flag the McLaren with its very synonymous one windscreen wiper sweeping all the way through, and it provides great coverage, and you can see every weight saving is a positive.
Now, the Lotus position is that Stefano D'Aste, third, is sticking with those McLarens as the road starts to become a little bit more slippery. So as the leading three accelerate now up towards Blanchimont, Stefano D'Aste, who we've seen in the past, he's not short of bravery, has really hacked away at this deficit. Stevenhaydens, dare one say, is a bit closer to Charlie Hart, but D'Aste being able to judge his pace against the McLarens, and now it's game on for second place. He's going to have a go on the inside of the second part of the chicane. D'Aste with really sharp elbows tries to terrorise Stevenhaydens out of the way. In the end, even D'Aste thought it wasn't really worth the risk, and actually by backing out of that, he's lost time.
Yeah, Victor Bovang's on the move, isn't he? We thought he had pace. Robertson just behind him as well. It was fair racing. I actually thought Stevenhaydens hadn't seen him at the last moment, opened his wheel and was able to keep the trajectory. That BMW hasn't gone as far behind the barrier as I was hoping. It's in a safe enough place. What is the race director going to do? Because, of course, over the pit window, we do see that get delayed if we go to a full course yellow or safety car, as we get our first track limit penalty for car 26.
Which is Stefano D'Aste. So a 5-second penalty for the Lotus for track limit offences. That might be why he's a bit closer to the McLarens, but Stefano D'Aste then he's going to cop 5 seconds, which they'll serve on the pit stop.
Exactly that. So that probably pushes them away even more from wanting to change tyres. That means they would have a 76 extra second stop than that. And the interesting bit for me, I'm just pre-cursing, is if they do change tyres, all the pit stop timers are preset to that 121 seconds. So as a driver, the team would tell you need to leave plus 71. We know drivers and their mental capacity limits are sometimes low anyway, but expect a lot of penalties if we do get tyre changes in the stops.
Pot, kettle, you complaining about racing drivers' mentality. Right, Stefano D'Aste, he's going to have to really press on now, isn't he, to pull out 5 seconds over Victor Bovang. And if anything, BMW is closer as we go 3 wide up towards the Les Combes sequence. And this is where the grunt of the Mercedes rather does for the Alpine, Jonathan. There's not a great deal it could do in a straight line unless it can be brave on the brakes.
Oh, and it's going to have to, and that's the 17 that we saw had quite a bit of a moment a little while ago, and Diesel Thomas doing a great job at keeping ahead of that battle as we dip down the hill towards the right. Battles continue to rage on. This Audi versus Aston Martin, again, two very different philosophies as they make the punch on the throttle down towards the long multi-left-hander of Pouin. But everybody right now trying to chase down these two McLarens. In the top 5, 3 of them are the British manufacturer. As we see drivers, co-drivers getting suited and booted, ready to hop aboard in their second stint. But everybody finishing their first stint would like to do so with favorable track position. And that's part of the reason why everyone's being so aggressive right now, especially as the rain seems to be waning just a little bit here.
And also, I would offer you, Joe, the leading 5 is starting to concertina. It's not just D'Aste closing on a sideways Stevenhaydens, but Bovang is bringing Robertson along for the ride. And maybe make it 6, because Sam Paley is there as Robertson has a look to the inside of Bovang, but can't do it there. And not even the outside for part 1 of the chicane is going to be the inside for part 2. So he's got to slot back in. 6 becomes 7 because you've got Romeo Leurs. 7 becomes 8 because Greg Gilbert is in the queue. That's your leading octet as they go over the line.
But these cars are so different for the drivers now. Now we're running consistently 5, 6, 7 seconds a lap slower. I saw the tyre pressures on Victor Boven's car. They were at 1.9 bar when we went on lap 2. Now they're down to 1.7. So the drop is massive. So the grip levels are going to be so different, and all the cars interacting differently. And it does seem like Charlie Hart is losing the most from where they were. Their car must have been set up for the hot, humid conditions we had for qualifying, for what we had 25 minutes ago, and then suddenly it seems like we've just got a huge lead battle, probably going all the way down to the Audi in 8th place.
Yeah, the temperature has dropped a bit, 25.4, but the humidity is still unpleasant, 73%, as the leading gaggle comes up now towards Lecombe. And there, right round the outside, goes Sam Paley on Charlie Robertson, but he almost runs out of road. Robertson goes back round the outside of the Mustang, and he's going to be through on the inside line. Great racing. The McLaren goes through, so Charlie Robertson goes back ahead as they come now down towards Bruxelles. And not only has Robertson got back ahead of the Mustang, but Romeo Leurs there, look, in the red Toyota, is right in the mix, and so is Greg Gilbert.
Contact, I think, between the Supra and the Mustang. You can see the weather graphic. The track temp still at 37 degrees. We're almost evaporating the water as it hits it. But I think we're getting enough water where that has dropped from 55 to 37. At some point, we're going to get a watershed moment where the track no longer self-dries.
There's another yellow flag, of course, over at turn 9, but that's for the car on the inside of the road rather than the out. That BMW still in a not perfect place, but we're getting closer to that pit window, are we not? Because we are about 30 seconds away from the pit window opening. So these cars, I don't think, are quite going to be able to do it. But if you're towards the back, especially if you're the slower of the two in your car, you're going to want to take advantage this time.
Yeah, so this could be a busy pit lane, couldn't it? Or, as a team, do you wait as long as you can to see what the weather gives you, so you've got the longest time to make sure you're on the right tyre for the second half of this race? That is Spa. You've got sunshine, you've got rain, you've got fast cars. I remember my weather lesson I gave you, David, earlier, the orographic lift we get here in the Ardennes forest, all this hot air suddenly hitting the forest area, and that is why we're seeing such sporadic rain showers across this 7-kilometre circuit.
To the chicane they come. McLaren, Lotus, BMW in the top 4. Charlie Robertson's dropped back a little bit this time, partly because of that battle he's had with Sam Paley. So the window is open, and the leaders did make it in time, but don't go into the pit lane. Hendrick still in the background, and then we have the first BMW in. That's Thomas Rackle to give way to Gabriele Piana. Now that's a shrewd move. Early in, they've lost very little time in the pit window before they put the gun driver in the number 12 BMW.
Yeah, smart move, and look at that beautiful sunset. What a lovely artistic shot as the cars fire into Eau Rouge. So that would really work for them if we get a clean race, but I just worry that around the pit window we start to see action between the Audi and the Supra all the way through Eau Rouge. Big cut from the Supra. If he takes that place, I think race control may ask him to give that place back personally.
Yeah, that 8 car, that team speed car Audi is hungry. Started well up in the front of the field. On the outside of row 2, dropped all the way down to 8th position. Now trying to make that move into 7th on the Supra. But like you said, going wheel to wheel. So too is Sam Paley on the 17. That Mustang trying to use its grunt in the first sector of this racetrack where it's a little bit stronger. He can hold track position in the second half of the race car, second half of this racing lap. That's a little bit more dependent on the front end. The McLaren might be slightly better suited to that. You, Joe, would know better than I am. It's one thing to make the overtake, but in tricky conditions that might be getting slippery, they might be getting grippier, though, with the temperature dropping. It's a very, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, last lap was actually back down to 2:34, so the delta 4 seconds to our fastest lap that we've seen of this race. So maybe that's why the McLarens are starting to edge away again. The conditions for them seem to be favourable when it's dry and hot, because they have really pulled away from the Victor Boven BMW. Is a race on pit lane. For me, the BMW needs to tuck in behind. Might still be investigated for an unsafe release. Whoever's in fast lane has priority.
Yeah, that was the Toyota just getting out ahead. Lucas Cartel, who's taken over from Hudson Schwartz, and the BMW now will be in 12, Gabriele Piana, and in 11, Jagish Gaidik. And which of the two is that? That is 11, 12. So Piana takes over that car as they come down the pit lane, ready to rejoin this long pit lane here.
Meanwhile, the 2 McLarens still out in the front of this field, and Charlie Hart still leading Stephen Heidens. Those 2 really haven't gone away. They have been line astern, just about that right for the drop of the green flag.
Bryn Lucas from the pits reporting the general consensus among the teams is stay on slicks, rain's evaporating, as Joe made the point, really, as soon as it goes anywhere near the ground. So, yeah, it's a little bit shiny, the racetrack, but slicks still the best option as we've got 32 minutes of the race to go.
I don't want to get hung up on temperature, but last time you quoted air temperature, David, it was 25. It's gone back up to 30 degrees.
Yeah.
So we must have just been in a pocket of cold air that has suddenly disappeared and brought back the more stable conditions. So this is a nightmare for the teams. The drivers would have told them, I definitely need wets next lap, definitely slicks, definitely wets, last chance. And they've got to make the decision for their co-drivers, Cresswell and Reynolds, looking on, loving watching it, probably just about realising that soon they'll be the drivers in these cars in first and second place.
And they're going to have a real culture shock if the road is slippery, because at least these drivers have been able to sort of get used to it over the course of the different laps, whereas the incoming driver now thrown into the car, thrown into the race and having to deliver. So the pit stop cycle through now. There you can see heading uphill, Stefano D'Aste in the Lotus. You've got there Victor Boveng, and he's gone through briefly. 26, D'Aste's dropping down the order, isn't he? So Stefano D'Aste has possibly got a problem. Maybe this is the road drying out again, and the car's starting to be able to use their grunt. But that Lotus that looked really racy a few laps ago isn't with the McLarens, and it's fallen down the order quite markedly.
Yeah, I maintain my comment about it being wet and enjoying it in that Lotus, the higher central gravity working the tyre well. He also has 7 track limit warnings in that Lotus, 3 each for the lead 3, 0 actually for Paley behind in the Mustang. The other Mustang of Van Springle's dropped down the order, wasn't it? Last time we saw him, he was fighting to be inside the top 10.
Yeah.
He's now all the way down in 15th place.
He's got Darren Turner just behind him. If there's any racing driver, I would not want the wily veteran, the multi-time Le Mans class champion in my mirrors, in any machinery, but certainly not in an Aston Martin that he's so comfortable driving now in the GT4 ranks. Hard to believe he's a relative newcomer to this field, although I think that is just about the only thing on a racetrack you can call Darren Turner a newcomer to.
Yeah, prolific Aston Martin racer over the last few years, factory driver, whether it's been in their historic machinery or doing development work, whether it's been racing. He's done a very good job of bringing on bronze graded drivers, Aston Martin customers, and helping them develop into race winners. And Darren also with a keen view to the future of British motorsport, board member of the British Racing Drivers Club, as there you've got the Lotus going through, coming under attack. Now, how much longer can those lead McLarens stay out for? All of a sudden, the threat's coming from Victor Boveng's BMW, isn't it? That wasn't really at the races earlier on. It was sort of sitting quite nonchalantly in a distant fourth. D'Aste pits, suggesting maybe all is not well in that Lotus, but Boveng much closer to the McLarens.
Yeah, the Audi actually getting a great run on Robertson there. So Gilbert trying to get down the inside. I still think they're going long into the window. Maybe not just on pure pace, but just buying that chance to get it. And it's going all the way around the outside of turn 1. I think Robertson's got enough just to get across the front of the Audi, or does he not? This now swings back in the favour of Gilbert. Look at the power of the Audi. I think he could be clear of that McLaren as they turn in Troy Rouge on a potentially damp offline for Gilbert. Gets it done. Nice move, but that was close, wasn't it? And that is why we love GT4 racing.
But look at the Toyota right there behind the Romeo Lurs. Has got a mega run through Eau Rouge and up Radion now, and on the Camel Straight he's alongside Charlie Robertson. That Toyota suddenly got a whole different lease of life, and Robertson with his foot nailed to the boards is trying to brave it out on the inside line, but round the outside Romeo Lurs can't quite do it. Charlie Robertson has probably never braked later in his life, but he just about hangs on. He's up the curb. Here comes the Toyota Romeo Lurs up the inside. He's sideways and he goes through. Barely a kiss from Romeo as he goes up the inside and takes the place away from the McLaren.
Romeo done, that was beautiful, wasn't it? Slid all the way through, kept it clean. Robertson fair too. I worry for what Robertson's pace at the moment has just fallen off a cliff, and hopefully no problem. The car just needs a tyre pressure adjustment when they get in the pit. Still second in class for Robertson, but look at this move. The Super sends it in, slight drift all the way up to the front wheel, and I believe no contact. So for me, that is a perfectly judged move, and I think Robertson would have to tip his hat to the Supra of Lurs.
Yeah, Lurs hard-earned position, I would imagine, Joe, in your time, you know, as a racing driver behind the wheel. If you're trying to make up ground and you have cars to fight through, I would imagine one of the best things you can see is the two in front of you start to squabble, because it seems like Lurs was able to take advantage. Those twos were trying to sort themselves out going up through Eau Rouge, and he absolutely set up the run, going down the Kemmel Straight, and had to fight for it, but made it work.
Exactly that, and then the momentum is always key. When you've got that overspeed and you can try to use it, and I thought Romeo had just lost out on that. Robinson had blocked him, but then he just got back on, and while the iron was hot, he struck. I think everyone's going to have to box this lap. There's less than a lap time left before the pit window closes, so this is going to be a very, very busy pit lane. I think we're going to have at least 20 cars in the pits in the next 2 minutes.
To the chicane comes Charlie Hart and Box behind him, Yanni Stevenhens. Box, Victor Boveng third. He's in this time as well. So will be Sam Paley. And then you've got a bit of traffic, but the leading gaggle all comes in now. Let's see who gets down to that pit lane speed limit best. And the Mustang almost locking up then. Everybody hits the anchors as late as they dare. On the power. Virtual dead stop.
It looks bad, doesn't it? A few cars overslowing for me. The McLaren actually with a pit speed dash that helped develop that brings the speed up as a massive number. Then the whole dash changes colour. It goes red, orange, and then when you get to the speed limit, it finally goes green. So the driver is trying not to go under because that part of the racetrack is still free push. The pit lane timer only starts on that white line. You can see the pit stops counting up. That has to be 121 seconds or 2 minutes and 1, depending on how the clock shows it. I don't think anyone's going to do tyres by the looks of it.
You've got 1 second tolerance. If you're under by a second, you can play your joker, but you can only do it in one of the 2 races. So you could just about sneak a 2-minute pit stop today, but you've got to be bang on the money tomorrow. Now, while the bulk of the field is in the pit lane, Gabriele Piano, we saw a moment ago, who was a very early driver into his BMW, he's charging along to try now to make up ground from Thomas Rackel's earlier stint. So we'll see whether it's going to be a jumbled order the other side of the pit window, and that should give us the final 25 minutes of the race.
Eric Evans seems to have hopped aboard further down the order. The car that was started by Nathan Van Springel saw him drop just a little bit despite having his hands full with multiple battles early on. A look on with the 78, the Elite Motorsport McLaren. Number 12 BMW continuing. That is Piana, who you were talking about, pushing well over the curbs into Blanchimont.
Piana, somebody that you'll see in the Ground Strike 24 Hours of Spa, but he's been a GT4 champion in Germany. He's been a GT4 champion in this series. He made his name in GT4 cars, and he's kind of the benchmark driver. Every year he seems to have a different co-driver, but Piana is the one constant. He's quick. He doesn't make that many mistakes. He can be a bit fiery at times, but he's a hard racer. He's a fast racer, and he's got a chance here of buying back some places as the entire field, it feels, is ready to pour out. Piana's only up at La Source, though.
Yeah, I think Piana's going to probably slot into about 6th or 7th, depending on what speed he can carry through. 4, 5, 6, and 7 now leaving pit lane. As you can see, Piana coming under the new bridge on this run down to Eau Rouge. At the moment, it looks like Elite have got it. Just looked like Victor Jochen Valder.
Yep.
The Porsche was slightly slow coming off the limiter. Looked like he was holding a few cars up. Looks okay now.
Right, there's Piana then. He's up to speed, remember. He knows what the circuit's like. Everybody else ahead of him is fresh into the car, and he's about to gobble up Paul Petit in the Audi then, and that is going to put him ahead and gain a place. So 5th now for Piana. Well, we said he was going to be about 6th. He was 6th coming up the hill. He's now 5th, and Piana has the chance of maybe gaining another place here before the end of the lap. Who's ahead of him next? It's going to be Michael Haverans, isn't it, in that Mustang?
Yeah, like you said, David, these drivers around him, all on their out lap. He's now had 2 laps to get his eye in to a very difficult circuit. Last laps were still quite slow, so we're not back to dry conditions. But the Elite cars look like they've controlled it pretty well, don't they, at the moment? And then it's now Jochen Valder. Remember, he's a bronze-graded driver, a very fast bronze-graded driver, may I add. But he is leading his Pro-Am class, but 3rd overall as well.
Got a little bit of ground to make up, though, relative to the overall leaders. Not for class position, though, but I think the 2 McLarens, Cresswell and Reynolds, now installed, running 1-2 as they enter the pits, 78 ahead of 77. Been a pretty dream race for them so far. Started on the front row of the grid, have kept it that way, have controlled the pace of the field, and have navigated changing conditions up until this point, handed over to their co-drivers, who now get into a green track that has already seen quite a bit of action. But for the Schubert Motorsport BMW, got right in the mix and was well and truly challenging for the overall lead. Again, not for class position, but has lost a couple of seconds, probably 20 or 30 odd car lengths back now, and might have to play the defensive game because Piana is charging, tires up to temperature, as you said, understood the racetrack, and now he's got the Ford Mustang of Haverans just in front.
So this is Mackenzie Cresswell, who's taken over the leading car. And look at the lead now, the other side of the pit stop, over Harry Reynolds, who is new to GT4. There in 3rd place, Joachim Valder. In 4th place, it's Michael Haverans, who has a little fade to the inside, and it's Piana trying to get past the pair of them. That was a very crowded house for a moment, but Piana not quite able to get past the Mustang. He's got Paul Petit back onto his tail. So this is 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th coming over the line. Piana fully on song, isn't he, now in that BMW as he tries to gain ground coming up to La Source.
If you can remember to last year, the year Piana set the lap record, he got 2 overtaking moves done into the last left of the lap. One was unfair, adjudged by the officials. I disagreed. As we've got a car in the wall, it looks like on the exit Stavolo 2. Hopefully they can get going, but that is in a very precarious place.
That is Philip Viskirchen, who's taken over from Linus Hana and has had a moment, and he's certainly gone to the inside. What's the debris lying on the road? As you see, Haverantz now going for third against Joachim Walder. In fairness, those are silver cars against a Pro-Am, and Piana's going to get past, and he might even get a toe off the Mustang here, and he could be able to dive up to the outside. Likewise, Walder tries to fight back. Piana against the Mustang. On the inside is Haverantz. Round the outside goes Piana. Fantastic move.
Beautiful, and he kept it on the track. There's nothing that annoys me more with that lake of tarmac on the inside of Le Combe now, where drivers just open the wheel up and give up and take the place unfairly. Piana the opposite. He closed the door fairly and kept it on the track, and that is one of the best overtakes you're going to see all weekend here at Spa.
Didn't rest on his laurels either. Made one move before the end of the Kemmel straight and then had his eyes set on the Mustang. Had to fight for it, but got it done. Went to the outside line that becomes the inside line. Look at this Ginetta now, trying to make up positions and crucially trying to get out of the mix of what is a whole sea of cars now making their way down the straight.
One of which is rather battered. They've got a really crumpled Lotus there at the back of that queue. So as the cars now run up towards Les Combe, Thibaut Mojica in the Ginetta, desperately trying to make ground. He's got a BMW to negotiate ahead of him as they squabble their way through. Daniel Nilsson gets a bit of hip and shoulder and he gets turned around. It's in the way of the Supra that has to go into the gravel in avoidance. And most survive, but not all. And that BMW has found itself resting in a really difficult place. Paolo Maloney's BMW there survives. This is his 100th GT4 race. And he'd like a good result at the end of it, and he's getting better than that similar car that's just been turned around.
For me, penalty coming for the Ginetta. The exit of Le Combe there, turn 7. You don't brake, it doesn't make an easy overtake. And you look at the Ginetta, it gets down the inside, but he's not really alongside enough, is he, to claim that was his corner. The Supra does amazingly well, and then it's almost a reverse J-turn for the BMW. And unfortunately, I think he's then had to then get back into gear, and that was not a nice place for him to be stopped.
Yeah, that was James Sherrington doing a really sterling job of getting out of the way, as we see 66 BMW who had spun around making its way safely back into the pits, but that could have very easily been a multi-car collision in the gravel and been day done for the Supra, but able, albeit with a little bit of gravel in the front grille, to continue on.
Yeah, Sherrington, and this was the problem. Also, he got helped around massively, didn't he, by one of the Mercedes there.
That was Joel Nash, I think.
Yeah, and I think it was bodywork getting ripped off. So for me, the 66, fully innocent, and maybe a penalty for that Mercedes. But yeah, Sherrington doing a mega job. He's made a big step up from mini racing and is now in GT4, and he's managed by Rob Huff and Will Fuchs. So he's going to have a good career trajectory, would be my prediction.
Now, after his aggression earlier on the lap, Thibaut Mojica, meanwhile, still busy as he comes now up towards the chicane. This battle that's been raging on. Paolo Maloney's BMW is still in the mix as well. There going through is the now 24th placed Porsche. Max Kronberg has got into the lead of Am. Remember, early on in the race, it was the Brunhagen Toyota. That car had a grid drop for the collision it caused at Monza, so it's taken a while to sort of chip up the order. But now Max Kronberg sharing with Daniel Blickler in the lead of the class and getting away. They're in 23rd spot. Daniel Nilsson in another of the very smart Caymans.
Soon to be replaced by the 911 GT4 car. So yeah, Porsche honouring their commitment to this GT4 class and updating it with their Halo product. Be interesting to see how that gets on.
Now, after a really good first stint, Charlie Hart is watching Mackenzie Cresswell bring the car to the end of the race. And as Mackenzie Cresswell powers on, Charlie has got time to talk to Ganel for us.
Charlie Hart, amazing stint. How was it to drive that field on such tough conditions tonight?
Yeah, obviously we knew going into the race there was a threat of rain, so we prepared with the team for those type of conditions, you know, went over some video and stuff. And yeah, it was just really because I was the first one to hit the rain every lap. It was sort of just like pushing, not maybe 100%, maybe 99%, so you don't throw it off, but still keeping the pace up and bringing it in the box P1 for Mackenzie.
Your teammate has a 6-second lead, so it seems that you're on a good way to get the first win this season.
Yeah, hopefully he keeps building that gap, and yeah, I'm sure he will. Very fast pair, and it's been coming a long time, so yeah, really pleased at the moment.
Congrats.
Yeah, Charlie Hart, third-generation racer. Dad was a very handy racer himself. Grandpa, very good track racer, going back to the 1980s. And Charlie Hart then watching his car. This is the nervous time for a driver, isn't it? Because you've done your stint, there's nothing you can do. You're standing in the pit lane, wishing the clock to tick on down. Yeah, it's got worse with more technology as well. The amount of cars that have live onboards, so you can watch every single second of their stint. Back in my day, it was just a timing screen. We weren't even blessed with the great coverage as we see the full send racing, full send on Ravi Rammeed. So that is Lavery, isn't it, who's taken over from Turner. And at the moment, Rammeed is getting swaddled up. And they had a bit of a slow pit stop. Remember, that car started on the second row and is now dropping down, just about staying in the top 20. And also Sasha Botterman there in the Audi trying to make ground up on the inside. Botterman goes through to the outside line now is the number 2 Porsche. That's now been, after the stops and Bas Visser's earlier stint, been given to Leon van Westervelt. So number 2 Porsche also up past Ravi Rammeed, who of course is new to Spa, other than British GT of last year. He's not the most experienced of drivers around here, so there's still a bit of learning going on. Yeah, and it's just such an infamous circuit. You feel that as a driver, you do all the sim work, but when you get here and you turn a wheel for the first time, it takes your breath away. And it's one of those circuits where the gaps of experience are always going to show largest with the lap times. Another good battle then raging on as Van Westervelt gets himself ahead of Botterman, so 2 ahead of 3. Place change then, as you see, for 19th spot. And now that becomes 17th and 18th later in the lap as they go through Les Combes. But Mackenzie Cresswell, in the meantime, is the better part now of 6 seconds clear of anybody else. And there for second and third, Gabriele Piana absolutely on a mission, and he could here upset Elite's day, couldn't he? Because he's got the pace, I think, to make a go at Reynolds. He's certainly got enough of the race left. Well, right out of the pits, we saw how quick that car was, having those tires up to temperature a little bit sooner, having the knowledge of track conditions and what was a very dynamic middle section of this race, and I think had one up on the rest of the field who waited just a little bit longer to come into the pits. Charged well up the order, is now stagnated just a little bit, but trying to say stagnant no longer because he's tied right on the back ends of Reynolds. Going through Blanchimont, a little bit shallow over line, and just a little bit of a tap of the brake pedal, making sure those pads are well and truly in place and making sure the nose can turn into a very high commitment corner, flashing the headlights as they hop on the binders for the bus stop chicane. If a move is coming, it might be into the source. Yeah, it's difficult for Piana there through Blanchimont. You can see he had the speed, but then had to check up more, and that's why the gap grew. And I think he's going to try to get the run through Eau Rouge. It's a similar thing for Eau Rouge. You actually don't want to be too close to the car in front. You need some space to use that momentum, then to go all the way down the Camel Straight. But at the moment, it seems like Reynolds is going to have to really get his elbows out if he wants to hang on to second place. Looking at the lap times and sector times, especially over the last 3, you can see the graphic there. Definitely the faster of the 2 cars when we saw the McLaren appearing to be the better machine in the first half of this race. Track temperature has dropped once again significantly, 6 degrees Celsius now, lower than it was near the pit cycle. The sun has tucked below the trees of the Ardennes, and the track temperature has dropped as well. Tires might be a little bit grippier, depends on how much rubber you have left in it as well from your teammate.
For car 78, drive-through penalty, car 78. No drive-through, sorry, correction. 15-second time penalty for car 78. 15-second time penalty for car 78. Speeding in the pit lane. And 78 is the race leader, as there you've got a Toyota on the grass, and that's not going to end well. Bouncing from barrier to the track and back again. It's going to go round in the end. It does. And that, after a big, big moment going up the Camel Straight, is Lucas Cartel in the barrier. Just quickly to say, the voice you heard was Joel Doval awarding the penalty to the race-leading car, Mackenzie Cresswell, speeding in the pit lane. So he's 7 seconds ahead. He's got to double that gap. Now, Joe, explain. I know you want to gain places, but on that part of the racetrack, is being on the grass a good idea? Not after the sprinkling of rain we had, and it wasn't the largest accident, but it was the longest accident I've ever seen. 400-500 meters. Lucky getting some speed off. We still tagged the barrier, but he's able to drive away. Luckily, no one else involved. This car is the car that's going to get a penalty. 15 seconds. At the moment, 7.1 seconds ahead. Do we think Elite are trying to use Reynolds to back up Piana, and that is why Reynolds is struggling with pace? I think not, but I'm just throwing it out there. I didn't, but I think it's a good idea as a plan B, because certainly Harry Reynolds needs to stop Piana from getting by, because either Reynolds will inherit the win or he'll help this car win.
Yeah, and as a team, that's the team game they'll be playing. And yeah, I wonder why they were speeding. Was it driver error on the way in? We've seen a few, haven't we, this weekend with the downhill nature of Spa's pit lane. It can be the car just over speeds if you're already on the limit. And Piana's going to send it down the inside late on the brakes from both of them. And Reynolds does just enough. That was great driving from Harry Reynolds, in my opinion.
5 second time penalty for car 71, speeding in the pit lane. Car 27, 5 second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. 27, 5 second time penalty added at the end.
Okay, all these penalties coming at the end. Just very, very quickly, keep an eye on this battle for second place, but Charlie Hart's speed at pit in, 50.4. Cresswell on the pit exit, 48.4.
So 50.4 potentially is the issue, 50 is the limit. So 2 elite cars done for speeding now, as long along with Ravi Rammeed's car and Charlie Robertson. So there's only Harry Reynolds left surviving. Gap up to 9.1 seconds. This is on, you know, to get a 15-second gap and still win this race for the 78 orange elite car.
Well, when that penalty was handed out just two and a half laps ago, that gap was 7 seconds at the front of this field. It's now 9.7 if timing and scoring is to be believed. But Piana is on an absolute mission. He will have had the message relayed about the impending penalty in the 15 seconds. He wants to make the move past the McLaren and does so bravely to the inside and does make the move stick.
Yeah, Harry Reynolds not able to defend for much longer against an inspired Gabriele Piana, but Mackenzie Cresswell is lapping nicely. Cresswell's last lap was a 2:32, Piana a 2:34, but Piana was stuck in traffic. Now we're going to get a real indication of what Gabriele can do with clear real estate ahead of him, but you've got to say he's on to inherit the win.
Yeah, you would say so. And Piana, I think, used his reputation there of being aggressive and not afraid to use contact to bully Reynolds out the way. Like I said, when Mojica got in the side of the BMW, it's not an overtaking spot turn 7 unless there's a problem or a lot of space given. And for me, Reynolds was too fair there. Could have got in front of Piana and kept him behind, maybe for another few laps.
So while all that's been going on, 10 and a half minutes remain. This is quite calm for a GT4 Europe race, Jonathan, we've got to say, but it's really has been busy, hasn't it? 98 goes through, leading in Pro-Am, Joachim Walder having taken over that car from Victor Boveng. And with a big grid and lots of drama and the sprinkling of rain, I think you've probably had just about everything in this race, and it's been a lively one.
A nice variety at a beautiful track like Spa as well, and changing light conditions and a gorgeous sunset we have at our windows. We ride on board with the 98. You can see the remnants of some of the rain that fell earlier in the race having streaked its way across. I'm sure, Joe, especially with the light dipping below the trees, it certainly doesn't help your visibility.
Yeah, and I think there's even a few fresh drops going on that windscreen, but yeah, all the dirt and the grime gets smeared in. You can see the windscreen wipers there as we're working hard on the wheel, touching the curb on the exit of Blanchimont. You can see how bright those rain lights are as well. So when you get
drive-through penalty for car 51. Drive-through penalty for car 51, causing a collision with car 97 in T7.
51 is the Mojica Ginetta, so that's not a real surprise, is it, guys?
Now, Joe, you were talking about that earlier. That was your assessment as a driver, but I'm curious now what the 15 Mercedes has to say about some of the pressure behind it. Another battle I'm watching further up the field, and we'll resolve that in a moment, because this is the 98 BMW trying to make a move, but strung just a little bit far back on the run up to Eau Rouge. You mentioned that you want to give yourself a little bit of running room, but here is the leader for now. Gap is now 8.4 seconds. Piana is charging, now released in free air. Windshield wiper just a little bit towards Les Combes. Maybe some fresh droplets like you were talking about, but that 9-second advantage is closing quickly.
Yeah, he just has to sit there now and inherit, doesn't he? I mean, yes, Piana would love to win this on the road, but he's savvy enough to know that as long as he stays close to Mackenzie Cresswell, when you put that penalty on, the win's going to go his way.
And depending on how close this battle at the front of the field bunches up in the top 5, Haverons and Paley might be on for an overall podium as well.
Very true. So you've got to feel a little bit for Mackenzie Cresswell here. He's done nothing wrong in this, but Joe, you win as a team, you lose as a team.
Yeah, exactly that. And it'd be interesting again to speak to the drivers to see what they're saying after the race. And the only thing with Piana is it's hard in these loud race cars to get the communication from team to driver as we're getting into Porsche battle here. Looks like it's going to be the silver car down the inside of the Pro-Am. Porsche there, nice clean move, gets it done, and that's what the good bronzes do, don't they? They realise it's a faster graded driver coming through, and Joachim Bolton there just worried about holding on for a podium position in Pro-Am, and at the moment he's doing a good job of that.
8 minutes are on the clock, so in the battle to win Pro-Am, Walder and Boveng's BMW from the Jagish Gaidic BMW from Joachim Bolton's Porsche there. very colourful circus livery that adorns the Porsche. Joachim Belting himself is colourfully adorned, load of tattoos, arms, legs, you name it. A great character he is, and he's about to go deep into Piff Paff. He just about saves that.
That was late. You could see as soon as he hit the brakes, it wasn't happy. The car darting all over the place. And then the problem is, as soon as you go off the line, there's less grip. So it's going deeper and less grip all at once. And then suddenly the Audi behind him is all over him. And that will be for position as well. And potentially our final podium.
Drive-through penalty for car 17, speeding in the pit lane during the drive-through.
Oh, God.
Bad to worse, their car was in the wars a little bit earlier on. Had the drive-through assessed, was already in the midst of a comeback drive, was that MM Racing Team Mercedes AMG, and then as you heard it there, the drive-through was not served as it should have been, with a little bit of extra speed.
Yes, the Thomas brothers. Diesel had the spin, and Joshua has now copped for the penalty. Is there, you can see number 3 Audi, which is now in the hands of Sasha Botterman, accelerating up towards the line, getting onto the back of the Joachim Belting Porsche as they break the beam now with just over 6.5 to go.
Battles all the way down. The Audi trying to get that final podium position in Pro-Am. Like we said, it's going to be elbows out. We've got time for 3 more laps. Just looking at the lead battles as well. The pace is really ebbing and flowing, so track conditions are difficult for the drivers. Joachim Belting at the moment in this Porsche, able to just get the gap up, but we know the Audi is very strong at the end of the straights. There's a battle in front of them as well as we cut to that. And that's the other thing, the drivers, you've got to worry about what's up in front of you. You've got to keep your eyes on stalks to be able to see what's happening before it happens.
And you've got this change of light that Jonathan mentioned a lap or so ago. 20 laps in the book for Mackenzie Cresswell. This is the fight for 12th and 13th places now. In 12th currently is the Max Bostrom-driven Toyota. Crawling all over the back of him is the Joel Mesh Mercedes. Now that got involved, remember, earlier on with the Philip Wiskirchen BMW in 14th place. Right with them as well is Leon van Westerveld, and a big dive to the inside there. Audi of Sasha Botterman gets alongside Joachim Belting. That's a change in Pro-Am. Audi does it.
That Audi will have studied maybe some of the braking troubles earlier on for the 32, and recognizing if he was going to get a move done, it would likely be served under braking. Did just that.
Yeah, lovely clean move, wasn't it? It was well calculated and couldn't have been any smoother, and he's now making his escape already. So the Audi has had a troubled day, hasn't it, across the brand, but this one is going to get a class podium at least, and is up to 15th overall.
And we're not done yet in these battles, as you see there. Joel Mesh get up alongside Leon van Westerveld, but the Porsche tries to fight back inside for the final part of Piff Paff, the outside line for Campus. Mesh in the Mercedes will just be able to sneak through on the inside. Van Westerveld tries to get the switchback, but if the Mercedes is caught and pass, it's pretty much game done.
Yeah, really nice move, and it's now the Supra that gets a chance to get away with its annoying flashing rain light in everyone's eyes. Super high intensity lights, those rain lights, much brighter than your traditional fog light these days. And because it's been declared a wet race, the driver's able to turn them on and leave them on, almost as an annoyance to their peers.
Would you ever do that as a racing driver, or would you be courteous to the cars behind?
If anyone used to flash their headlights, I used to flash my rain light back to go, if you want to play that game now, I can play it back.
Van Westerveld having a go back at Mesh here, Jonathan, isn't he?
Yes, he is. I was going to say, a little bit sideways for the 110, but the AMG will have to see down the main straight how much that compromised his run. I think the Cayman might be in a slightly better position. That AMG was well and truly sideways mid-corner, and here is paying dividends for the Cayman. Switches to the outside, now becomes the inside of La Source, but you have to make the move stick, Joe.
Yeah, and it's very fair at the moment, isn't it? We've seen them side by side for quite a few corners, but the Mercedes always just escapes an annoyance flash from the Porsche just to say, I'm faster than you, why don't you just get out of the way? That isn't motorsport. Everyone is fighting tooth and nail for every position, no matter where they are in the order.
3.5 minutes pretty much still to go. Mackenzie Cresswell leading the way, but the gap has stabilised about the 9-second mark, making one think maybe Piano's got the message. He just needs to stay within 15, and the win is his. Van Westerveld pulls out to get past Mesh, then tries to get a toe, and then pulls out again to try to get the job done. He's on the outside line. Look, back Joel Mesh. He's going to be able to hang on a position going into Les Combes. Leon van Westerveld in the Porsche. Quick flick of the wipers, tries one side and then the other, but Mesh just about being able to hang on, and he covers off the inside line. Does he? No. Van Westervelt's going to chance his arm here. Gets up the inside, brakes as late as he can. Brakes glowing in the darkness, and Leon Van Westervelt goes back through. Great stuff. Sideways on exit.
It's a bit of showboating, wasn't it? I was saying, I've seen the Mercedes go sideways. I can do the same. For me, that is top level racing. It's been so fair and hard for multiple laps. Neither of them have made a mistake. It's just a pace difference between the Porsche at the end of this race. It seems like the Mercedes has potentially worked its rear tyre slightly harder and able to get that power down as well and efficiently as the Porsche that seems to be making escape to try and get that Supra, which remember was part of a three-car battle only 2 laps ago.
Right, where do you want to look next? Because there's so much going on in this race. Further back in the 25th, 26th, 27th bracket, you've got the Paolo Maloney BMW. Split the Caymans there. We've got 1 or 2 other incidents that are going to be looked at post-race, but for the moment, race leaders plunge downhill, and the leaders on the last lap now.
Yeah, we don't have the white flag, unfortunately, in this part of the world, so we just get the message, but the leaders will know this is their last lap. Cresswell leading at the moment by 10 seconds, but remember, with a 15-second penalty to add on, at the moment, that would keep him in the podium position with where everyone is sat, because Michael Haverant in the Mustang in 4th is 16.4 down, so this could be a mega drive from Cresswell. To win this race by 10 seconds is amazing, but still with a 15-second penalty to be on a podium position is a mega stint.
Yeah, we've seen the pace in hand from Piana and that BMW, especially in the second phase of this race. And so for him to continually to open up multiple seconds from what was a 7-second advantage at the time the penalty was given, I think is something to be commended. But all of a sudden some traffic being cleared, and that might have played into the hand a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's actually close to being second place, because Harry Reynolds in third is 14.5 seconds behind and has already lost 3 tenths in sector 1 alone. So he only has to find 1-2 more tenths in this final lap, and Cresswell was actually only going to lose 1 place to Piana here in the Borusan Automotive car.
Well, Reynolds was so busy, wasn't he, trying to hold Piana at bay? I wonder what that did in terms of the tire life on that 77 McLaren.
A drama there. Toyota stranded. Have a quick look out of the window. It's just coming onto the pit straight, and that car looks as though it is going no further. So that'll be a yellow flag at the chicane. Gabriele Piana then second on the road, making that run down from Pouant towards Pif-Paf, and a race win is heading his way. Looks like it's the Henry Jocelyn Max Bostrom Supra that has ground to a halt.
I wonder what Piana could have done if he had taken this car over in a higher position. They did the undercut on strategy, didn't they? Boxed earlier than anyone, but Piana's pace has been phenomenal, and as a stint average, he's absolutely clear. It's him and Cresswell, the only ones in the 32s. I've got to say a shout out to Joachim Walder as well. His pace has been phenomenally fast for a bronze graded driver. Pro-Am leader, but still in 7th overall.
So the checkered flag is going to go to Mackenzie Cresswell, and after Charlie Hart's efforts, it was all down to that zealotry on pit lane. A 15-second penalty to be applied to this car. They're going to be devastated, but the evidence is there, and so the checkered flag is waved. Mackenzie Cresswell brings the car home to win on the road for Elite Motorsport, but Gabriele Piana and Thomas Rackel are going to have their first win together. They're going to inherit the victory. It's another win for Piana. It's a maiden win for Thomas Rackel. It is a win for the Borusan Automotive Motorsport team as they come across the line. And there, look, 77 getting all caught up with the back-marking BMW, and that's going to give Haverance a chance to challenge. Is it coming up to the line? Not quite. So Harry Reynolds comes across the line third. I think that back marker did for Harry Reynolds' chance of getting second place. So that should just reverse the top 2, should switch those rather than anything else.
Exactly, yeah, 20 seconds the gap, so he lost 6 seconds on that last lap with traffic. So brutal for Harry Reynolds.
But it was a yellow flag zone, wasn't it? He couldn't overtake the BMW because of the yellow flag. So once he'd caught him at the chicane, he was stuck all the way through.
Yeah, true. That is frustrating, isn't it? And nothing you can do. They're the rules. You've got to play to them.
I think Haverans, we saw that happen in real time. He recognized the conditions he was in. He saw the run. He got on the loud pedal and then seemed to suddenly lose paces because he backed off because of that yellow. I think it's exactly to your point there.
Now we're going to have the Pro-Am winning car home of Joachim Walder and Victor Boveng, and we're going to have an Am winner in 19th. Max Kronberg and Daniel Blickler set for the class win. Here they come in now towards the chicane, and on target then for a second win of the season. These two, checkered flag at the ready, Daniel Blickler, Max Kronberg, take the race win in Am, and that Jonathan, is GT4 European Series.
What a treat as well. I understand one of the only, if not the only race on this calendar that takes its finish under the cover of darkness, which is pretty cool. So headlights ablaze on this GT4 car for some of the competitors in this field that may not be as accustomed to night racing, getting to do it at one of the most special racing venues anywhere in the world. And they put on a heck of a show for us today. You said it earlier. This race had everything. It had condition changes. It had grip level changes. We had spots of rain. We had strategy. We had incidents. I don't think you could ask for anything better.
And what was refreshing, it was hard and fair racing, wasn't it? No safety cars, no full course yellow. There was bits of side-to-side contact, but no silly driving. And that's why I was saying earlier, European GT4, for me, has really smartened up its act. And we're seeing some great racing. Hard, but fair. Whereas a few years ago, it was the Wild West.
So Mackenzie Cresswell, Charlie Hart winning on the road, and now you can see on that graphic things start to change because the penalties are being applied. So Gabriele Piana confirmed with Thomas Rackel as victors here, and a really good drive. Piana, we always expect great things when we see him on track in a GT4 car. He's making an increasingly big name for himself in GT3 as well, but he just knows GT4 machinery so well. As I said early on, every year he gets a different co-driver. Sometimes he's been with a different team. It was the Bonk Motorsports squad he won with Mikael Schrei a few years back. Then he moved to the Turkish Borusan team. And he's got all of that experience as well for the team to pull from. Yeah,
he must be a mega asset to have on board. But just getting my small violin out for him, about to do the best GT3 24-hour race in the world. What would your prep be the night before? Would it be racing a GT4 car past 10 o'clock p.m. local time? Flip of a coin, yes, you're getting some track time, but your rest in a hot car is already getting used up before you've even started a 24-hour race.
And then he's got another race tomorrow morning.
True.
So, what rest, what prep? BMW winning, of course, Silver and Pro-Am. Victor Boveng and Joachim Walder also taking honours for BMW. It's not a great deal of evidence to say that a GT3 BMW is going to be quite so successful yet, but they've got a much longer race and many more things can happen. There, Mackenzie Cresswell looking like he's celebrating. I'm fearful that Mackenzie hasn't had the message about that penalty.
Oh, I don't know that he has. It's always one thing that we know. We have all this information and race control at our disposal, and we can pipe in messages directly from race control, but you have to assume only that the radio is working in the car. We don't know because we're not there, but you would hope he has, because your heart would sink if he's gone through this whole thing thinking that he's opened up enough pace to do it and has just fallen afoul of going a little bit too quickly down the pit lane.
But what's slightly puzzling now is that the timing screen has reverted back to putting Cresswell as the winner and an 11-second gap over Piana. Now, we had seen it change, and now it's changed back again, and I've not found a line that says the penalty has been rescinded, but the timing screen has gone back to showing 78 as the winner. You heard Joël Doval, the race director, give news of the penalty, but car 78, at least now, is being credited as the victorious car.
Well, that is curious as well. With a larger gap than took the checkered flag in as well. So that's a curiosity in and of itself. You mentioned it there, 11.1 seconds now. He does park at the second place marker, so presumably he would have gotten the message.
The odd one as well, with pit lane speed, it's like track limits, a judge of fact. It's not appealable. So even if Elite had what they consider to be evidence, it's dismissed instantly. So potentially a timing issue, I guess. But yeah, we'll see what unfolds. At the moment, Piana parked by the #1 sign.
Which is what we're expecting, but maybe timing have had to do something in order to apply the penalty again, and they've needed to go back to that original result. Not sure, but Gabriele Piana thinks he's the winner. Mackenzie Cresswell thinks he's second, but the Lumi rank says differently, and so does the timing screen. So there's a certain amount of confusion all around here.
It was a great race. Can't take that away from my confusion.
No, that's true.
And, Piana, either if it's first or second, a worthy winner or podium position. At least being car number 12, he's got 1 and 2 on his car already. So we'll just work out which one of those it should be on the Lumi rank.
And if Cresswell was celebrating, it could have been the fact that it's 2 teammate cars who started on the first and second positions, and they will finish on the podium as well. So a very successful day for that McLaren team, and Elite Motorsport doing a heck of a job, losing only a couple positions there, but still getting to spray a little champagne, take a kiss of the trophy on a very prestigious podium here at Spa.
Right, results changed back. So BMW confirmed from McLaren. So Gabriele Piana and Thomas Rackel are the winners. They are celebrating. They've taken their first victory together. and they're all smiles, and they're also ready to have a word with Bryn Lucas, who is heading in their general direction. Once they've got their Pirelli winners' caps adorning them, then we'll be able to get them in front of cameras. Piana takes off his helmet, and another victory for Gabriele, who has made quite a name for himself in BMWs, particularly in GT4. Right, let's get down to the pit lane. They inherit a win, but it's a win nonetheless. Thomas Rackel and Gabriele Piana are with Bryn.
Well, we have one of the winners here from from the race, because Gabriele has just run away. I'm sure he'll come back in just a few seconds there. But for yourself, Thomas, it's a great start to this weekend. I mean, it was a tough race, changeable conditions out there too.
Absolutely, it was super tough, changing conditions, but it's been a great start into the weekend. I think it's the most important race of my life so far. And actually, it's my first GT win, and I got all my sponsors here, my family, and it's just incredible, unbelievable. I can't describe it.
We can tell by the emotion, and for your teammate here, what an incredible drive. I mean, that overtake early on in your stint was absolutely inspired. And for yourself, what a workload you've got this weekend by what's going on tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I rather don't want to think about it. I just do one driving at a time.
So talk us through what happened to you.
Well, I think the strategy call was the right one. Come out of the traffic early on. I think the biggest step we did it by the undercut, because when the other people rejoined, I was already P4 or P3 already, so then it made it much easier to go through. I managed to pass the Ford early, and then I was a little bit too careful with the McLaren, lost a bit of time there. But then they told me that the other car had a penalty, so I was just trying to stay within the 15 seconds window. And
well, we know the penalties are provisional. We're not sure what's going on. Provisional first place. Well done, both of you. Go and celebrate.
Thank you very much.
Thomas Rackel, a happy man. Gabriele Piana taking on plenty of liquid, and again, the savvy racing driver knows about the penalty, does just enough to stay the right side, make sure he inherits the win, doesn't do anything silly, doesn't overdrive, doesn't need to, knows how to win the race.
Yeah, he'll go to bed tonight so happy with his performance. And sometimes easy to forget what the drivers go through, but he has not put a single foot wrong in this race this afternoon.
A win for Thomas Rackel and Gabriele Piana from Charlie Hart and Mackenzie Cresswell. Led all the way, but a penalty does for them from Yanni Stevenheidens and Harry Reynolds. Sam Paley and Michiel Haverens fourth, Romain Leurs and Roberto Faria fifth from Luc Ibañez and Alex Papadopoulos. Eighth, Victor Bobeng and Joachim Walder to win Pro-Am. 19th, Daniel Blickler and Max Kronberg coming home to win in Am. A race that lost 3 cars pretty much before the start, but had plenty of great racing all the way through. 1 or 2 hard luck stories with cars having incidents, but we're all set for a repeat performance tomorrow morning for our second GT4 European Series race of the weekend. And for that, it's going to be a separate grid based on the other drivers' qualifying times, not the result of this. They're isolated, 1 session, 1 driver, 1 grid, 1 driver. Now, let's hear from our Pro-Am winners next. Joachim Walder and Victor Bobeng take the class honours, and Gwenelle is with them.
Joachim, Victor, congrats on that one. It's the second win of the season for you, and tough conditions out there on track today. It was really hard to make it back to the Parc Fermé today.
Yeah, it was a really exciting race, let's say. You're always like when you're standing on the grid, you see the 1 minute board and you see the drizzling on the windscreen, and you look up at the sky and it's very dark. You never know what you're going to expect, but that's actually really nice when you're not first. So you can follow the cars in front. But yeah, it was really tough. Really tough, but we're so happy to be standing here in the top spot. So fantastic job for Joachim as well, and the whole team who was fixing the fuel tank overnight, the whole fuel tank this night. So much thank you to the team and BMW Motorsport.
And you're increasing your championship lead as well.
Yes, but when I took over the car from Victor, I was a little bit nervous if it was slippery in turn 15. But we did as we have decided, so I'd I drove as calm as I could, but I was trying to push, and I saw car closing in behind. There was a silver car, so I was a little bit stressed, but we managed to do it. So it was a very good race, and very nice to win at Spa, who is the top race of the season.
Congrats, see you tomorrow.
Joachim Walder, Victor Bobeng taking the class win, and that BMW, gosh, it all looks rather different, doesn't it? The images from the early part of the race compared to the then slippery track and the darkness that we now have. Right, let's have a recap of what happened in race 1 of the weekend. in sunny conditions. Race 1 got underway with a demon start made by Charlie Hart to lead the sister McLarens of Yanni Stephenheidens and Charlie Robertson down towards Eau Rouge, with a good getaway also being made by Greg Gilbert's Audi. He was 5th going up the hill as Luc Ibanez ran wide by the end of the lap at the chicane. It all got a little bit busy, and we had the Vinny Beltramelli Audi being squeezed a little bit over the curb. Nico Ferrarant running alongside Linus Hahner. They got themselves together. Meanwhile, the number 61 Ford Mustang of Nathan Van Springel was busy, and around went Diesel Thomas, having a big lose on a now greasy circuit. A bit of rain coming to make things very difficult indeed. BMWs and Porsches got themselves together. Stefano D'Aste briefly involved in the lead battle, but gradually, as the track surface changed, that Lotus would fall away. Charlie Robertson was making good progress as well, fighting back against the Sam Paley Mustang. 98 also looking very quick indeed. The BMW charging its way through traffic. We almost lost Nico Ferrarant understeering his way out wide through the gravel, hops his way back onto the circuit, and then with a bit of help from Joel Mesh, off the road went Philip Viskirk, and the BMW losing some of its underfloor and able to rejoin, albeit as far as the pit lane. Then Thibaut Mojica got involved with the Daniel Nilsson BMW, turned that around. James Sherrington's Toyota in the gravel in avoidance, and it was going to be a race win on the road, at least, for Mackenzie Cresswell and Charlie Hart. But then they got a penalty, and Lucas Cartel had a red-hot go at really writing off his Toyota Supra. This big tank slapper all the way up Kemmel Straight put him in the barrier. Joachim Bolting's Porsche ran wide, losing a place to Sasha Botterman, and Gabriele Piana was getting ever closer to Mackenzie Cresswell, staying within the 15 seconds that the lead car had been penalised by to ultimately inherit the win. A first win of the year for Gabriele Piana and Thomas Rackel.